Hi, this is Terry Bach, and welcome back to Rewrite Your Money Story series. And in this series, we're talking to some extraordinary experts on the topic of entrepreneurs working so hard in their business and often without the financial results that they're hoping for. So we're exploring it from various perspectives from our different experts. So today I'm really excited to talk with Carol Emerson. And Carol is a business and money expert. She's an educator and a coach and a mentor to women entrepreneurs in service-based businesses who aren't always sure about how to package, how to present, and how to price their services. And so what happens then is they often undervalue themselves and hold themselves back, limiting their income. So Carol also provides accounting and bookkeeping and business coaching. So one of Carol's gifts is the ability to see the greatness in others, even when they may not see it in themselves. So welcome, Carol.
Well, thank you, Terry. I'm happy to be here and excited for your event, and really grateful for you to include me as an expert in your.
My pleasure. So I'd like to find out a little bit about you before we get into some more of the background and questions that we have. But what brought you to doing this kind of work and your passion for creating financial success in entrepreneurs?
Sure. Happy to tell you. So I think I've been the money person all of my life.
Okay.
I've worked in small businesses. I started out of high school in banking, and then soon moved into working for small businesses and even owning some of my own with my first husband.
Okay.
And just always found myself in the position of being the one in charge of money and people too, because in small businesses you wear many hats. But I realized pretty early on that I had a talent for numbers and for understanding business and helping businesses grow. And even without a formal education, I seem to be finding myself rising in my different positions. And then in my mid-30s, my mother passed away. And that was kind of like a time of my life where I said, what is this life all about? What am I really supposed to be doing in my life? And that began sort of a soul-searching process for me.
Yeah.
And, I actually enrolled in the university during that period of time. And besides working a full-time job and having my two daughters that my first husband and I had adopted when they were 5 and 8 years old, I enrolled in university and was taking 2 or 3 classes at a time and pursuing my bachelor's degree because I felt like I needed that.
Okay.
Sure. And then in the late 1990s, in 1997, my husband and I at the time had a business, and we closed the business because of some bad financial decisions we had made together. And I found myself, he left, he went to Florida, he went to Florida to find a job, and I was left with a home that was being foreclosed on, no money, no income, him not paying child support, and my life was just a big financial mess, basically, lots of debt. And that was like in November, December. And then the first week in January 1998, the Northeast had a huge ice storm. And our home that we had been living in, basically, we lost our power for 2 weeks. I had to go live with my father with the 2 girls for 2 weeks. Yeah. And I had taken this temporary job, and I remember coming up over this hill, after the ice had sort of settled where we could actually drive, and coming up over this hill, and the white birches in the ice storm, if you're familiar with white birches in snow, they were just broken. I mean, it was just like this big, broken mess of trees. And I came up over this hill, and there was this whole big, forest area full of white birches, and they were all broken. And I looked and I thought, this is my life. This is me, broken. Fast forward 3 years, and in that time, I got divorced. I, had found a position close to where we lived. I was raising my two daughters. And one of the things that was really important to me was really to be a good role model for my kids.
Sure.
And so I had started really doing this, besides the soul searching journey of who am I and what am I supposed to be doing, I really started doing a lot of studying and had a fascination with the laws of attraction and the power of our thoughts and being able to manifest what we want. And I got really, really clear about what I wanted to do. I wanted to work in a bigger city, which is Portland, and I wanted to work in a particular area, which is called the Old Port. I wanted to work around more women because I had been working in male-dominated industries. I wanted to work in a creative environment, and I wanted to make X number of dollars, which was about 30% more than what I was making at the time.
Okay.
And lo and behold, I manifested that job. And I was about ready to be graduating for my university program, which was Leadership and Organizational Studies. And they had this 1 week course that you could take. It was like a condensed course. It was experiential learning. And basically it was camping out in the winter and doing a ropes course type thing.
Wow.
You started at one place, which was at a state park, and we basically like camped out in 30-degree below zero weather in these little camps that really had a fireplace but didn't work for part of the week. And then we were going to go to an outward bound center the second half of the week.
Okay.
And the travel between the two places brought me over that same hill that I had gone over 3 years before, almost to the day.
Wow.
And I came up over that hill, and it was a beautiful sunny day, and the white birches were just beautiful. You would never have known anything bad had happened to them. And I had to stop because it was like, this is my life. I've healed. I've completely healed from that big mess.
Wow. How powerful.
Yeah. So that was
great.
Yeah. So that was really a big time in my life. And, and then, and again, I continued to be studying about sort of this fascination with, what is it that makes us tick, and all, what is it that, how do people really deal with their money?
Yeah, and it's such I know, because I work with money too, and it's such an emotionally charged topic,
It is.
And
it is.
Why do you think that is?
Well, one of the things, eventually after I left that business, I started my own business, and I've been working with a lot of women entrepreneurs. And one of the things that I did notice is that there are some patterns around what makes people successful and what doesn't. Mm-hmm. And what money affects every single aspect of our lives.
Mm-hmm. It does.
It really does. It really does. And we look at money, or we come to our beliefs around money based on a lot of things. Part of it is our experience, like my experience of going through bankruptcy and all of this stuff, and start telling ourselves around, maybe I'm not good with money. And then also, what was our childhood like? What did our parents say about money, or how did they teach us about money? Most often they didn't teach us about money. True. Nobody talked about money. You're told not to talk about money. If you get a job, you're told, don't tell other people what you make.
Right.
All kinds of things. So money becomes a topic that you really don't talk about.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the other thing that I see is, I notice this in a lot of the women that I work with and myself especially, we seem to have this inner glass ceiling. And what I mean by that is sort of this level, or this upper level of what we feel comfortable making or having.
Exactly. Right.
And, for me, I was like at this, I could make it to a certain income level, and then without me knowing exactly why I did these things, but I would do something to sabotage myself from going to the next level.
Right.
And sometimes it's even like the universe is the one that sabotages you, like,
yeah.
Your place of employment closes or whatever, but there's something that sort of brings you back to that place where you feel comfortable with what it is that you're able to make or even hold on to.
And do you think some of that could come also from our parents and what we learned from them?
Absolutely. Yeah. What were the things that were going on in your household? and even just sort of how you experienced the world. An example is I grew up on a farm. I had siblings, but they were much older than me, and I wore hand-me-down clothes. The hand-me-downs that I got were from one of my mother's friends who sewed a lot, and they were probably beautiful clothes, but for me, I felt like I didn't deserve nice clothes.
Right.
And I just asked my sister the other day, you know, did you have hand-me-downs? And she said, yeah. And I said, how did you feel about that? She goes, oh, I thought it was great because she was getting them from a cousin whose mother shopped at like the best stores, so she was getting the best clothes. Like, oh.
Makes a difference.
It does. It does.
Yes.
But you know, all of those things that you go through affect you, and how your parents, you know, whether they, you know, some people use money as a form of power and they control others.
Sure.
The money, you know.
So, Carol, what do you think is the biggest challenge that women entrepreneurs have with their financing and with kind of charging what they're worth?
Well, you know, one of the biggest things about money and sort of your value and how you value yourself is we really collapse our self-worth with our net worth. We measure ourselves against how much money that we feel like we should make. You know, we don't charge what we should be charging.
Yeah. Why do you think we don't charge?
Well, one of the things is people are basing their value on time. So, for example, if you were to go to a doctor, you know, a specialist, you wouldn't expect him to base his fee on how long it took him to do the surgery.
True.
What your expectation is that you're going to pay for the results that you get.
Exactly.
So that's one of the things that I think, one of the challenges that a lot of women entrepreneurs have is that they don't, they're basing their value on how many hours they work and how hard they work.
Yes.
And another thing that I see is that we undervalue our gifts. You know, we think because things come easy to us that they don't have value, when actually the opposite is really true.
Exactly. Yes.
You know, other people value those gifts tremendously because they don't have the abilities that you have.
And I think if we think that, oh, if it's easy for me, it must be easy for everyone else, and they don't see that it isn't.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Right. Yeah. Good point. Good point. So what do you think every woman entrepreneur should know about money and their relationship to it?
Well, one of the things that I think we should all know is that all of those money stories and beliefs that we created from our childhood and our life around money, those become sort of our subconscious ingrained beliefs, and they control our behavior and our actions more than we even realize that they do. And that's where people find themselves self-sabotaging, even without realizing why or what's going on. Exactly. To me.
Yeah.
So, that's one thing that people need to be aware of. And on a more practical level, I encourage my clients to really get to know their money, to really understand where they are. Like, where are you starting from right now? If you're not where you want to be financially and you have some dreams of aspire to be, you have to start from somewhere. You have to know where you're starting from. So really know, what is it? Get organized, get your finances in order, get a bookkeeper, whatever it takes, but do something so that you can actually be looking at your financials on a regular basis and start setting some goals. Because what I've found is with the clients that I'm able to forecast, like, what do you want to do next year? What do you want your financial picture to look like next year? The people that take the time to do that and then constantly monitor what they're doing are the ones that reach those goals and exceed those goals.
Right. Because they're focused on it and they're aware. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I would also say, just be aware of your money story and, what's limiting you. It takes, an awareness that that there
Yes.
are those money stories, and then, it's not something that can be changed overnight.
Mm-hmm.
And most people need some sort of help to get there, either through, tapes or meditations or a mentor or a coach or somebody that helps them see that they can change their mindset from scarcity and limits to the possibility of of having their dreams really become reality.
So when you're working with an entrepreneur, a woman entrepreneur, how do you help her get from, like, if you've identified, or she has some a money story, some limiting beliefs around it, how do you help her get away from that into a different money story?
Well, part of it is, again, just being aware of it.
Okay.
What I work on two levels. One is the practical level, like, let's look at your finances, let's figure out
Sure.
what you're offering. One of the other things that I notice is that people limit themselves in what they offer. So, for instance, I could offer, or I did used to offer, bookkeeping. So that's a certain level of engagement with my clients.
Right.
But I really had a lot more to offer because I have a lot more experience than that. I have a lot more expertise than that. But that was sort of a comfortable place for me to be.
Okay.
And that's perceived as a low-level service. You
Okay.
can't charge $200 or $300 an hour for a bookkeeper.
Right.
So what I notice in a lot of clients is the same thing: is they'll offer something that is sort of within their comfort zone, that's easy, that that's not going to really challenge them or make them grow, but it also is not something that they can command a lot of money around.
Right.
So what I help them do is really realize that they have so much more to give. They have so much more value, and if they present it in a different way, package it in a different way, provide a different level of service, they can increase their income without having to work harder. It's a challenge. You have to grow a bit or step into the person that you really already are,
Right.
but it's not, it doesn't mean you have to work more hours.
Okay. And do you find that works for people? I mean, are they open to stepping up into a higher level?
Some are, some aren't. But, and those that aren't, well, we work with, okay, what is it that you can do to grow your business, doing what you're doing? Are there other ways of, instead of working one-on-one, can you teach something in a group, or, are there other ways that you can leverage your time so that you're not just committing to having, if you want to grow your income, just working more hours? Because for a lot of people, it's not an option because they're already too many hours.
No, and that'll turn them off to wanting to make more money because they don't want to work more hours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's kind of one of the money stories that a lot of people tell themselves as well, is that, oh, if I want to make more money, then I have to work harder or work more.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's not necessarily the case.
No.
But I think it does require people to sort of own their value and own who they can be, who they can become.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
And I think if you do it in steps and stages and, with encouragement, people will grow into that. It's not like you're going to just go from one thing to, like, superstar overnight, typically.
No. And I would imagine by having you there as their mentor and their coach, kind of helping them step by step through the process, it helps them believe in themselves when they know you believe in them too.
Exactly. Yeah. And on the practical side, it's, we actually, dig in and look at, okay, well, what are the services, what else can you offer that might be at a different level, or, can you raise your prices?
Right.
And it really all comes down to confidence. I mean, when I look at the people that are struggling compared to the people that are killing it, ones that are killing it are two things. One is they're totally confident in what they offer, and the other is they really understand who they are and what they bring to the table.
Exactly. And when you know you have value, then you also are more comfortable charging more.
Exactly. And those money conversations become easier. You don't feel like you have to discount things.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Good. And then what might be one piece of practical advice you would give to our listeners?
I think it's a little combination of, get to know your numbers, make sure you know what your finances look like. The second thing is to focus on the bottom line. Pay yourself first. If you're a business, basically your profit is your income, pretty much. So if you focus on that number, because people can say, you've got these, people advertising, I've got $1 million, $5 million business. Well, that's all fine and great, but what's the bottom line? Because you could be making $1 million in sales, and at the end of the day, you still only have 50,000 because you've got all these expenses or other people that are paying. So, be mindful of that bottom line. What is your income, your personal income goal? And then we can work backwards towards, okay, well, what do I need to sell or make in order to meet that? And another thing is to measure something, whether it's, number of whatever things to sell, or a monthly dollar revenue number, but measure something, because what you focus on expands, so that if you're focusing on something and sort of measuring it, you're more likely to take action to make that grow. Than if you're anything.
Right. Okay, great.
And the last piece is to actually look at your financial statements. Make an appointment with yourself once a month to actually look at your profit and loss statement to see where things are.
Okay. Well, I'm going to have to implement some of this. You
don't know how many people that I work with that don't want to look at their financials.
Yeah.
Great.
Not so much that I don't want to, I just don't think about it. Yeah.
I mean, for some people, it's fine if the cash is flowing. If you have consistent income, if it's sort of going well, then you probably don't care so much about it. But really, I mean, you really should care, because you could be maximizing. You could be creating more.
Right. And if you're not where you want to be, then you need to step up in some area.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Great. Well, Carol, I understand that you have a free gift for our listeners. Do you want to tell us about it?
I do. Sure. So the title of it is How to Raise Your Prices and Charge Your Worth. And it's really a lot about what we've been talking about, is really owning your value, acknowledging that what you have to offer is of value. And one thing that I didn't mention that I'll mention, I think is in here, is really instead of focusing on like your features, your capabilities, shift your focus toward your client or your customer, and what is it that what problem are you solving? How are you serving them? Because that's what they really care about, and that's what brings results.
Yes.
And when you shift that focus to that, it takes sort of some of that self-worth question off the table, because you're focused on, okay, what is it that they need that I have that I can offer? Right. And you kind of realize that what you have is of value.
Good point.
And even, if you're not, if you can just raise your prices slightly, so you grow into the prices that you want to be in, that's another thing that you can do, because, it's easier for people to do things in steps sometimes than to just like double their price kind of thing.
Well, because if you just double it, sometimes that fear will come in, and then they'll sabotage themselves.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's your self-doubt. Can I live up to this? Can I deliver what I promise I'm going to deliver? So,
or is anybody going to want to buy it when it's double in price?
Right.
Yeah. Good. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you, Terry. I appreciate being here, and this has been wonderful. I love talking about this stuff.
I know, I do too. Thank you. And thank you too for the listeners for being on the Rewrite Your Money Story series. And tune in again tomorrow for yet another expert who will be sharing her way of helping you work less and earn more. Thank you. See you tomorrow.